at the local level. And I was going through my intro with a couple of colleagues, and they told me the slide that I was going to use to represent the growth of mobile was quote unquote overused. And so I showed a couple of alternative examples, and he said they had all been overused. So I decided to switch it up and instead start off by presenting a short history of aha moments in mobile. So in 2011, I think we all used the mobile Lumascape to say that mobile is fragmented. And in 2012, who could forget Mary Meeker's slide about contrasting the amount of media that we consume on our mobile devices, which is large, and the amount of time we spend, or the amount of money we spend on advertising in mobile, which is small. I don't know if anybody could guess the obligatory aha moment from 2013. Well, it's the Vatican City slides, the first public introductions of the last two popes. Now that I've seen these slides 20 times, I've been focusing in on certain things. I love in the bottom right-hand corner of the 2005 picture, the lone wolf with the flip phone camera. He was a man truly ahead of his time. Anyway, so that's my brief history. The thing that's really, though, like a punch in the gut to me and a lot of, I think, my colleagues in mobile advertising is the pie is still really small. Just $3.5 billion spent on mobile advertising in 2012. I have a 5-year-old son who clicks on a significant amount of Angry Birds banners. I feel like he probably represents half of this. And so I wonder to myself, why just can't it be bigger? And here are the stock answers from the industry. Mobile campaigns are hard to scale because they're fragmented and inconsistent. There's a significant amount of mistake clicks, like my 5-year-old son's example, mistake phone calls that result from mobile advertising. And we don't have the luxuries of cookies. We don't have the luxuries of retargeting on mobile that we do on the PC. And therefore, it's really difficult to measure the effectiveness of these campaigns. And these things aren't going away anytime soon. So I submit to you that the focus of this presentation is an area for ripe investment and future spending in mobile, and it's national local advertising. So I'll take a moment to define this. National local advertising campaigns are executed centrally and targeted locally. They're funded by the national brand with shared accountability from the local business. There's customization of these campaigns to fit the local taste and geography. But most importantly, these campaigns speak the language of local business, which is not a click or impression, but it's an in-store visit or a phone call. So I'll take the next couple of slides to show you some data points on why I believe this. So first of all, nearly all business today is still local. And the reason I say this, if you take all of the money that we spend on e-commerce, you total up the entirety of e-commerce sales in 2012, there was $186 billion spent. That's the blue bar chart on the right. If you just take a single category, generally purchased locally, auto insurance, generally purchased through a local agent, and total those sales together in 2012, it's $178 billion, and that's just one local category. And then you take every business that's ever advertised in the phone book and add those on top of that, and you understand that business is still local. These are the folks that we need to be spending money on mobile. So you may not be aware that there are $68 billion in media spent to drive phone calls today. 43 billion of that is spent by national brands for the express purpose of driving phone calls, and most of this is occurring offline today. There's another big pile of money out there, and it's called cooperative advertising. For those of you unfamiliar with cooperative advertising, it's where the national brand and the local business participate together. They share in the spending of money to market, retail, merchandise, or advertise a product. It's about $50 billion. And today, less than 1% of co-op advertising dollars are spent digitally. This data comes courtesy of the local search association, Altimeter Group, and the IAB from mid last year. So on the table today, there's a paper that that my group, the Marchex Institute, released that discusses national brands and local growth. And the way the paper is structured is to look at national local advertising from 3 perspectives. And if you think I'm trying to say that national brands are evil, local businesses are curmudgeons, and consumers are idiots, I think you're reading a little bit too much into it. Okay, so first the perspective of the national brand. So a national brand advertising locally has a number of challenges, and the first one is competition. And I would say the number one problem is competing in the auction for branded searches. So oftentimes when you're searching for a brand, this is an example from Seattle, you see the national brand advertise, North Seattle agent, South Seattle agent, Bellevue agent, Kirkland agent, a lead generator, and an affiliate, all with the rights to use the brand name and having competing messages for that user. And we see when there's this type of competition, not just in Google, but in directory placements online and in mobile, the cost to drive a lead can at least double. So it's a real problem in that national brands are paying their maximum allowable cost per acquisition for the consumers that are lowest in the funnel. There's something wrong there. Lead allocation is also a big issue. This is one of my favorite articles from The Onion. And although Starbucks really isn't a target market for national local campaigns, I imagine that the four tax advisors in my zip code, all represented by the same national brand, really feel this pain in that if there's a national program, how do they fairly get leads when people are searching for tax advisors 98122? A third challenge for national brands is something that I would refer to as lead capture. So when national brands go and drive phone calls direct to small businesses don't always answer the phone. Automotive and multifamily housing are particularly bad, and for most local business categories, the average rate of unanswered calls is 20%. So these are folks at the door waiting to chat with a business, and the business just isn't there. A few other challenges of a decentralized approach to local advertising. Brand consistency is a big one. When local marketing solutions are sold direct to small businesses, there's oftentimes mismatch in messaging. And then also economics. When I got this, I couldn't believe how young Ben Stein looked in this picture. But when local marketing solutions are sold to each of the 4 local tax advisors in my zip code, there is overhead for each one of those campaigns, which must be baked into the price per lead that business is paying. When there is a centralized approach to local marketing, there's just a single overhead, if you will, that's spread across every single local business that participates. It's a really large economic advantage, and one of the reasons why these programs can significantly drive down costs for leads. Okay, so if that's the national perspective, this is the local business perspective, and this data comes from interviews that my team and our product team did with dozens of small businesses, and also data from a media research firm called BIA Kelsey. I think if we had one takeaway, it would be that the choice in marketing programs can be overwhelming, and that data is really reflected in this chart, which is where BIA Kelsey asked local businesses the number of separate media channels that they advertise each year, and that has nearly doubled in the last 5 years, a pretty astounding statistic in my mind. And these customer acquisition programs had better work. Before seeing this, I was under the impression that a lot of local business comes from repeat customers. In fact, when local businesses are asked, they say the percentage of business from new customers over the last 12 months is about 40% of their business. So if these customer acquisition programs don't work, it's not only bad for the local business, but bad for the national brand. And finally, we have the consumer perspective. So all of us in this room see the smartphone as a sophisticated advertising delivery vehicle. Homer Simpson sees our smartphone as a telephone. And that is really borne out by data from Google that shows that the most popular response to a local business search is in fact a phone call. And we see this in our data as well. Marchex, for campaigns that we run, we present consumers with a form, fill option, and a phone number. That's not the form that we use, it's a lot smaller. And it's really no contest what consumers prefer to do. 85% of consumers choose phone calls when provided an option to contact a local business. I think the reason for that is urgency. Google had some really interesting research earlier this year that showed that most conversions from a smartphone occur within an hour. We've seen this data borne out in what we see. We've seen 80% of car rental bookings made over the phone are for car rentals of the same day. And then Priceline has shown data that says that 70% of their mobile bookings are for same-day hotel stays. And just the graph here shows the difference in when people call during the day between mobile and desktop. A couple more points on consumers. I think there's some really good news here, and that's that most of the folks searching on their mobile devices for a local business are in fact new prospects. The reason we know that is Marchex puts a phone tree at the front end of a phone call for some of our advertisers to say something like, thanks for calling this business, press 1 if you're a new prospect or a new customer, press 2 if you're an existing customer. And for auto dealers and auto repair shops, about 60% of the callers are new prospects. So in effect, these advertising programs are not paying for loyal customers, they're paying for the folks you want to acquire. Last point on consumers, and that's that consumers are searching everywhere on mobile, so not just Google. ComScore and Localese did a study in 2012, and they reported that 50% of mobile and tablet users use apps for local business searches, and we see this as well. So this tells us that you need a very diverse publisher set and strategy in order to execute a national local campaign effectively. Okay, so to sum up, we believe that successful national local programs will have the following attributes. They'll be funded by national brands. They'll have conversion tracking elements, like a sophisticated call tracking and a form fill. There will be the ability to filter, verify, and capture leads. There will be dedicated training and service executed at the national level but for local participants. And then these campaigns will be displayed across all mobile channels. So as a sponsor of this event, it's probably no surprise that we offer these programs through Marchex Local Leads. We also have a digital call marketplace, which is our mobile ad network that delivers calls on a pay-per-phone call basis. And Marchex Call Analytics is our technology platform for measuring calls. Today, we'll be here all day. We have a booth in the back, and we actually have a giveaway which we encourage you all to participate in. It's easy to do so. What you do is you call this number, 800-650-8986. You don't have to talk to anyone. All you have to do is listen to the message. It's about 5 seconds long. And the first 20 callers will receive a spec iPhone case. The 20th caller gets a generous gift certificate to a local restaurant. And the 6th caller, I'm not sure why we chose those numbers, will win an iPad mini. So all you have to do is dial, I'll just show this for another sec, 800-650-8986. And then at the booth, we'll just have a screen that shows everyone that called, just as an example of call tracking. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. John, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for John? We got. It's always hard because